Aaron Hernandez was a superstar, a crazy full-muscle 6'1" tight end for the New England Patriots. He was on top of the world. He had it all, the glitz, the glamour, the money, the fame, but all of that was a whole facade, or even just the tip of the iceberg. Aaron Hernandez was living a double life that we, the public, did not know about at the time. On the other side of Hernandez, there was something more dark, sinister, and even something sad we just didn't notice. And at the end of the story, 4 people would end up dead. How did this all begin? What would make a $40 million contracted football star throw it all away? And why was he found hanging in his prison cell? Welcome to World Sports Documentaries, where we do videos on the dark side of sports. And this is the dark side of Aaron Hernandez. On the night of July 16, 2012, Aaron Hernandez entered Cure Lounge in South End, Boston. But before ordering, a man mistakenly spills a drink on Hernandez, which would be the catalyst to his dark story. This man was Daniel and a friend who was there with him, Safiro, just 2 normal, hardworking immigrant men from Cape Verde trying to make the American dream.
Oh, there's a good chance you're set for life as long as you handle it the right way.
Well, he didn't handle it the right way. Within a few minutes of this incident, the security camera witnesses Hernandez leaving the lounge with his friend. After about an hour, Daniel and Safiro exit the lounge and enter their car with 3 other men. Then out of nowhere, a SUV pulls up next to their vehicle, shouting racial slurs at them. And within a few seconds, 5 shots were fired into the car, killing both of them on the spot. The shooter? Aaron Hernandez. But not even a year later, this happens. Inside a Florida bar, Hernandez and his friend Alexander Bradley witnessed 2 men sitting in plain clothes just across from them. But to Hernandez, they seemed a bit too suspicious.
He thought he was being followed by helicopters or tailed by police.
And Bradley continues to say,
"Did Mr. Hernandez call something to your attention?"
Yes.
What did he call to your attention?
He pointed out 2 gentlemen with low haircuts, and he told me he thought that they were police officers. He told me they looked like cops.
What did you say?
I told him if they are, it's because of the stupid shit he did in Boston.
What was Mr. Hernandez's response to that?
He became like standoffish. He got upset, I could tell. He kind of walked away from me and walked over towards the bathroom area with a couple of his other friends. And he was just, a little standoffish after that.
And did you notice that standoffishness happen after you made the comment about Boston?
Yeah, it was right after I made the comment.
Hernandez, Bradley, and 2 other men spend the night partying at Tootsie's nightclub in Florida. And an argument ensues on the way back to their hotel. But this argument would be the argument that would change the future drastically for these 2.
As you left the club, did you realize that you had forgotten something?
Yes, I asked the driver to turn around so I could go get my phone.
Did Mr. Hernandez join that conversation?
He objected. He told the driver to not turn around so I could get my phone. An argument ensued. I told him I needed my phone.
And what was his response to that?
He told the driver to just keep going, not to turn around to get my phone.
After this argument, Bradley eventually falls asleep in the car. While heading back home, Hernandez takes a surprise turn towards an industrial area in Palm Beach County. Then shoots Bradley in the forehead and dumps his body. Bradley ends up with a bullet hole between his eyes. Was this all because of a cell phone? Or was it the comments Alexander made about the suspected cops the night before? Within the span of 2 years, Aaron Hernandez kills 3 people over nothing. He definitely didn't have the mind of a normal person, but the 4th person is where things really get strange. But before we get into that, we need to understand the mentality of Aaron, even if it's just a little bit. We have to go back to his childhood. His mother used to beat him with a hammer, and his father, an alcoholic, would relentlessly beat him while shouting berating words, especially targeting at homosexuality. This obviously took a toll on Aaron as he was closeted, as initially revealed by his childhood friend Dennis and Susie, and later by Aaron's brother. Dennis shared that they would go to a friend's house, smoke 2 blunts, and engage in horseplay during their on and off relationship from 7th to junior grade. Back in the 2000s, being gay wasn't widely accepted or understood, and dealing with a homophobic father meant Aaron had no choice but to keep it hidden.
His father was incredibly physically abusive to both of them at a very young age, including striking him in the head. Probably his father's physical abuse during his developmental years significantly contributed to his brain damage.
Despite the abuse, Aaron idolized his father, crediting him with pushing him to become an NFL player and serving as his male role model. However, everything changed when his father died from a routine hernia surgery. Aaron didn't shed a single tear at the funeral. Maintaining a stone cold face, whether it was from shock or relief, remained unclear. According to his mother, Hernandez never got over his father's death, leading him towards an escapism that ultimately ruined his career. Surprisingly, this was the same mother who dated Tanya Singleton's husband, Jeffrey Cummings, just a few months after Aaron's father's death. Tanya Singleton is Aaron's cousin, someone who is very close to, and to complicate matters, she was battling cancer. This undoubtedly had a significant impact on Aaron. To make things worse, Jeffrey Cummings moves into Aaron's house. This is where things take a turn. With Jeffrey at Aaron's house, he started to spend most of his time at Tanya's place. He began letting loose, partying, hanging around the wrong crowd, especially friends with criminal backgrounds, and indulging in large amounts of marijuana and cocaine. Boston, Massachusetts, June 14th, 2013. Hernandez and another gentleman, Odin Lloyd, were witnessed in Rumor nightclub. Odin was dating Hernandez's fiance's sister, and they naturally began to hang out together. But Odin makes a huge mistake that he himself didn't even know of. He was found talking to a group of guys, but those group of guys didn't seem to like Aaron. It's speculated they might have been Odin's cousins, or Daniel and Safiro's friends. Hernandez noticed this, and it triggered something inside him. Could it maybe be that Odin was another possible witness? Or that Odin could be planning to set him up?
At Rumor nightclub in Boston, Lloyd had arrived there with Aaron Hernandez, seen right there in the white sweatshirt. Prosecutors say Hernandez became miffed when Lloyd started hanging out with others there.
Then on July 17th, Hernandez leaves his home with a gun and brings along two of his friends inside a rental car. And the next thing you know, Odin is in the car with him. And that's where things start to go wrong. During that drive, Odin messages his sister back home saying, "Did you see who I'm with?" His sister replied, "Who was that?" And Odin responded, "NFL, just so you know." Within 5 minutes of that last message, the car was heading towards an industrial area. And that was the last time they ever heard from him. Not long after, Odin's body was discovered when a jogger took a shortcut through the same industrial area. The cause of death? A total of 6 gunshots. These are not acts of a normal person, or let alone a normal brain. Aaron Hernandez had a case of CTE, and even before this, having a low social maturity rating and failed drug tests on his draft report. From what we know, the start of his brain and mental damage stems from all the way to his childhood. From being beaten as a child until his teens from his mother and father, witnessing marital abuse, starting football from a young teenager and taking Toradol to ease the pain, having to leave home at 16 and being raised by his cousin, plus all of the drugs he had been taking and being sexually assaulted when he was a young teen.
When Aaron Hernandez was in jail, he told his brother that when he was 6 years old, he was molested by an older boy in the neighborhood. He never revealed who the perpetrator was, but he said that that had a significant impact on his upbringing.
On July 22nd, 2013, Aaron's nightmare begins. A civil suit was filed against Aaron for shooting Alexander Bradley back in February. And the person who filed this was Alexander Bradley, who miraculously survived the shooting to the face. Then a few days later, Aaron was arrested and charged with the murder of Odin Lloyd.
As reports come in that an arrest warrant has been issued for New England Patriot Aaron Hernandez.
Aaron Hernandez had a 5-year Patriots contract extension worth nearly $40 million, but that came to an end when he was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and 5 weapons charges.
You could say this murder was pretty sloppy. It had Aaron's fingerprints all over it. The police initially suspected Aaron because he was the only person Odin knew in North Attleboro, and things started adding up from there, ranging from cell phone towers to surveillance videos. Aaron even tried to get rid of the security footage from his mansion.
And as his own surveillance cameras then captured him arriving home, he is allegedly seen carrying a gun inside his house. Prosecutors claim Hernandez got rid of the next 6 to 8 hours of video.
If that wasn't enough evidence, more and more kept surfacing. During the date of the crime, Aaron rented out a car, but right after he returned it, an employee found something weird. The employee found a gun shell with bubblegum stuck to it.
The attendant begins a cleanup of the car and finds a shell casing under the driver's seat. And next to the shell casing is a piece of Bubblicious blue gum.
Actually, gas station security footage showed Aaron buying gas, and specifically Bubblicious blue cotton candy gum. And lastly, black and mild blunt papers. At the crime scene, a blunt was found right next to Odin Lloyd's body, testing positive for Aaron's DNA. It was obvious that all the evidence was pointing directly at Aaron, from car tire tracks and shoe prints to security footage. After Odin Lloyd's death, Aaron's friends Carlos Ortiz and Ernest Wallace went to Tanya's house. And because of that, the police searched the house and found a silver SUV. The Boston police had been on the lookout for that SUV in connection with the murder of Daniel and Safiro, eventually leading to Hernandez getting indicted for the murders of Daniel de Abreu and Safiro Furtado.
2 men shot in cold blood on a Boston street nearly 2 years after their murders. Former Patriot Aaron Hernandez is charged with the crime.
April 2015, Hernandez was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for Lloyd's murder. But a few years later, in April of 2017, Aaron Hernandez and Alexander Bradley were in court together for the last time. The police granted Alexander Bradley immunity for his testimony.
He leaned across me and extended his body out the window with the firearm in his hand. Before he fired the gun, he was like, "What's up now?" And he started firing shots. He said to me, "Did I see that?" And I said, "No." He said, "I hit one in the head and one in the chest."
But due to Aaron's defense attorneys and their strategy, he was found not guilty for the double murders of Daniel de Abreu and Safiro Furtado, but instead shifted the blame onto Alexander Bradley.
Victim Daniel D. Abreu. Do you find the defendant not guilty? Guilty of murder in the first degree or guilty of murder in the second degree?
Not guilty.
Emotion written all over the face of a normally unmoved Aaron Hernandez. After 6 days of deliberations, a jury clearing the former Patriot star of all counts, including murder, only finding him guilty of a firearms possession charge.
But what happened in prison adds more mystery to this case.
Former NFL star Aaron Hernandez found dead in his prison cell overnight.
What was discovered written on Aaron Hernandez's head when he was found in that cell.
The New England Patriots, Aaron Hernandez, was found dead in his prison cell this morning on the same day when his former teammates from the Patriots were at the White House celebrating a Super Bowl win.
When Hernandez's mother met him in prison, he happily expressed that he was more relaxed and less stressed here than outside. On the other hand, he was working out every day with the belief that he could return to the NFL. However, just 5 days after the acquittal, Hernandez was found hanging with bed sheets from the window in his cell. When police looked closer, there were drawings of an incomplete pyramid and the all-seeing eye of God. Below this pyramid, the word Illuminati was also written in capital letters. And on Hernandez's forehead, the Bible verse John 3:16 was written. Not to forget, all of these drawings were made through his blood.
There were 2 inmates involved in an altercation. One of them was Aaron Hernandez.
Bristol County Sheriff Tom Hodgson is telling Eyewitness News he's concerned because 24-year-old Aaron Hernandez is locked up in a special section of the jail where only 1 inmate is allowed out of his cell at a time.
So that raised some concerns from me right off the bat as to do we have a systemic failure in our protocols. It's not uncommon where somebody would try to raise their stature with the rest of the inmate population when they have a notable person in there to challenge that person. So,
was this a case of revenge from someone? We don't know, and there's not enough evidence for that theory. However, we do know that Hernandez was diagnosed with CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is deeply connected with a lack of control in anger, rage behavior, and poor judgment. Just imagine being a young kid, and taking hits to the head from abuse and football all the way until your late 20s. Then being overprescribed injury medication because you're just an asset to one of the biggest teams in the world. But the drugs didn't stop there. He chronically smoked marijuana and used PCP, and that's just the beginning. If you add on being sexually abused by an older teen, witnessing marital abuse, being abused by your parents, having to leave home at 16, questioning and hiding your own sexuality, and witnessing your idol pass away. This would be a recipe for disaster, only resulting in impulsive anger, low social maturity, and offing oneself. On April 17, 2017, an investigative journalist, Michelle McPhee, appeared on a Boston sports radio show, Kirk and Callahan Show, and the three of them proceed to reveal Aaron Hernandez as a homosexual, saying, quote, tight end on and off the field, and then he became a wide receiver, with McPhee adding that Hernandez kicked with both feet. And just 2 days later, Aaron was found dead. Look, I am not saying that the release of his sexuality is the sole reason for him taking his own life. We have to look at everything he has been going through. Having CTE, exposing his sexuality, and the mental toll on drugs are not mutually exclusive. I believe all of these things compounded over time and eventually reached its boiling point. When Aaron's body was taken in for autopsy, a toxicology report came back negative for all substances tested to include synthetic cannabinoids. But the report redacted an interview conducted with a fellow inmate who told police that Hernandez spent the last days of his life smoking K2. For those who don't know, K2 is a synthetic drug that can cause hallucinations and psychosis. It is so potent that you only need a small dose and can be difficult to detect in routine drug tests. Marilyn Hustis, a toxicologist who teaches at the Lambert Center for the Study of Medicinal Cannabis and Hemp at Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia, says, we see many cases of people using synthetic cannabinoids and other novel psychoactive substances that are aggressive toward themselves. And on top of that, people familiar with K2's effects told the Globe that delusions caused by the drug often can be of a religious nature. What are your views on this mystery? Was Aaron killed? Was he set up? Or was it the mental and physical toll he went through throughout his life? Let us know in the comments below.